makes new threats.
He utters one threat. He will truly regret it.
New photos out showing thousands of military officials marching in Pyongyang in support of their leader, Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un, the world always thought he was not a responsible leader. Well, he's acted more responsible than this guy.
If anything happens to Guam, there's going to be big, big trouble in North Korea.
Mr. President, as the governor of Guam, I have never felt more safe or so confident with you at the helm.
All military options have to be on the table. That's what makes diplomacy effective.
Al-Qaeda now has a new target in America, subway trains.
I think General Kelly has done a fantastic job. Chief, I call him Chief. We should have had health care approved. I was not impressed. Can he do good? I think so.
It's not time to get it done. It's past time to get it done. It's time for Mitch to go if he can't get the job done.
Took him a while to figure out.
I was going to say, either way, no matter where it's pointing, that's dangerous to have in Rick Wright's hand.
Especially when he was pointing it at himself without an arrow, facing out.
He's had quite a morning, though.
Thanks, Bass Pro Shops. The Fall Hunting Classic is here. I mark my seasons by when Bass Pro's on our show, so it's almost fall. You can kind of feel it in the air.
You can smell it in the air. You were talking about this plate. You think about football. You think about chili, the leaves changing. I think fall is my favorite season of the year.
It is my favorite season, but I can't smell it yet. I maybe feel it coming, but the leaves got.
Can you smell bowling?
Can you smell what the fall is cooking?
You know what I smell? I smell mozzarella sticks, pizza, and beer when I smell bowling. Because that's what I do when I go to the bowling
shoes.
It is National Bowling Day, so we're celebrating. If you go to gobowling.com, they're giving out free. You can find a local bowling alley near you. You'll get a free pass to go and have a free bowling game today. It's pretty great. Pretty cool deal. So, yes.
Only Clayton would know that fact.
Well, I'm full of
He
facts.
is locked
You
and
gonna take your
loaded
kids
with
bowling?
facts, if you will.
I'm going to take them
It's a great way to get their energy out.
We've got some breaking news that we've got to get to this morning because we've been talking about North Korea all morning long, and now we've got an update, some breaking news out of North Korea, and they are calling us out, threatening an attack on us.
That's right. The state-run newspaper in North Korea, and I will quote what the paper said just this morning. So this is the response from North Korea to the United States and our president. It said, the powerful revolutionary army of the DPRK, capable of fighting any war the U.S. wants, is now on the standby to launch fire into its mainland, meaning our mainland, waiting for an order of final attack. It goes on and continues by saying, if the Trump administration does not want the American empire to meet its tragic doom in its tenure, they had better talk and act properly.
So they're threatening not only attacking our mainland, let's be clear, but they're also telling President Trump to tone down his rhetoric.
And to act properly. I think we need to bring in Geraldo Rivera for more on this, the Fox News correspondent at large. Geraldo, just your response off the top there, advice for President Trump to talk better and to act more properly. What is your response to that?
Well, first, I'm still shake, rattling, and rolling from Bill Haley, my first rock song, Abby. Going back to the beginning of that genre. You know, I think the most important thing is not what Kim is saying, and in a way, it's not even what President Trump is saying. It is what China is saying, and what China said in the last 48 hours, I think it cannot be minimized or overlooked in any way, shape, or form. China said very specifically, and it was a major give to the United States position. China said, if Korea is the aggressor, China will stay out of it. China will stay neutral if North Korea attacks us, which means the United States then has the ability to retaliate massively against North Korea, and China will stay out of it. Remember, you know, your history books, the First Korean War. We had the North Korean army beat. They had invaded the South. We invaded to stop them. We had them beat. Then the Chinese came in, and it was a stalemate, a bloody stalemate for 3 long years. So keeping China out of it is very critical. China says if Korea attacks first, we are neutral. You can have at them. And I think that everything Donald Trump has to do now has to be to keep China out of it. So I think there is a red line. I think President Trump has drawn a red line.
You like his tough talk, Geraldo?
I do like his tough talk, and here's his specific red line. I believe that if North Korea was to follow through on its threats and launches those 4 missiles toward Guam, the American possession, Guam, the American Commonwealth in the Pacific. If North Korea does launch those 4 missiles, then I think President Trump and the United States would be justified in either shooting down those missiles if they can, or more practically and probably doing something during the joint exercises with South Korea in the next couple of weeks to punish North Korea for launching those missiles toward Guam.
Well, we've heard, Geraldo, over the years, of course, we've heard this repeatedly from North Korea, the bluster, the threats, the chest thumping from not only Kim Jong-un, but his predecessor, of course. Are you led to believe that we're going to see any actual action from North Korea, or is this just more chest bumping?
I think, what you've seen is since 2006 is real action. What you've seen, a continuation of widely, universally condemned nuclear testing. They've developed their nukes. We know that their nukes explode. At the same time, they've been developing their missiles. We know now their missiles can fly. What we don't know is if they can take the missile, put it on the nuke, put it on top of the missile, and then launch it someplace, have it land where they want it to land, and explode. I mean, they're more than halfway there, it seems to me. They've got the missile, they've got the nuke. Can they marry the nuke to the missile? Can they make the missile with the nuke hit the target? I mean, that's scary stuff. This is not empty threats. These are overt steps that threaten the national security of the United States and our allies, particularly Japan, which is only next door, or South Korea, which is literally, adjacent. I think they have the capability, if they take the next step, though, and that's what I was trying to say in the opening, if North Korea does launch missiles toward Guam, whether or not those missiles contain nuclear warheads, I think that will be the line that the president will not permit North Korea to cross, and I think China will stay out of it if we then take some action to punish in a way, I'm not sure what. Maybe we take out a North Korean submarine. Maybe we stop their vessels at sea. Maybe we put the squeeze on them in something other than a sanction, something more than a sanction. I think that's what's possible.
Geraldo, in years past and things you've covered, we've seen politics stop at the shore's edge, right? This idea that foreign policy should be bipartisan, especially when keeping our country safe. The number 2 at the DNC, Keith Ellison, came out yesterday with some comments that, I think have a lot of our viewers shocked, but representative of the way a lot of Democrats have talked about this president during the showdown. Take a listen to what Keith Ellison had to say.
North Korea is a serious thing. You have this guy making bellicose threats against somebody else who has very little to lose over there. And Kim Jong-un, the world always thought he was not a responsible leader. Well, he's acted more responsible than this guy is. And what I'm telling you is that once you start seeing missile launches, you're going to see the time for cranking up the anti-war machine is right now. If you don't want to get caught deer in the headlights, start calling for diplomacy in North Korea immediately.
So, Geraldo, he walked back those comments a little bit, but that almost seems like the resist mantra that has existed at home is now happening as we interact overseas.
I think with Congressman Ellison, as with Rosie O'Donnell, these are not people that represent, in my view, a majority of the American people. He's the deputy chair
of the DNC, Geraldo. It's not someone you can just write off.
I write him off just because he has no real power. He couldn't even win the chairmanship that he hotly contested for the head to be the head of the Democratic National Committee. I think that we have to ignore those folks. I think that we have to listen to what our president is saying vis-a-vis North Korea. This has metastasized. This has gotten beyond bellicose rhetoric. They now have missiles. They now have nukes. We are worried that they can marry the two and really strategically threaten the safety of American citizens in Guam and beyond. I believe that in coming weeks you will see will North Korea blink now that China has said they'll stay out of it if North Korea is the aggressor. I think that if they do not, then we have a real crisis on our hands. My suspicion is, and this is, Pete, this is what my bottom line is, I do not think North Korea will be so foolish as to take this step and to launch these 4 missiles toward Guam. I do not believe that will happen. If it does,
They may not, but
I think all bets are off if they do launch those missiles. I think the president will take some meaningful, dramatic, very, in many ways, frightening, harrowing even steps to punish the North
What you'd
Koreans.
have to do, they may not do that, Geraldo, but can we live on for the next 20 years under perpetual blackmail from a regime
that's an excellent question.
As you said, will refine its technology and have the ability to deliver with precision to, say, I don't know, New York City?
Well, Geraldo, did you see our show earlier? I don't know if you saw Eric Prince's interview earlier. We had an interesting discussion with Eric because he believes that, look, we don't need to go to war. What we need to do is an information war, and we can do this far more effectively by basically inundating the North Korean people with information about what they're missing on the outside of that wall, how the South Koreans
That's
live.
actually what scares them more than anything, right?
Right.
Putting our Western ideals on them. I mean, I don't think that he would be more concerned about anything else, Geraldo.
A quick story. When I had my daytime talk show, my infamous daytime talk show, in 1988, the Soviet Union agreed to air my talk show in Moscow and other big cities in the Soviet Union. I swear to God, my talk show and programs like it, and exposure to Western values and pop culture and at the time cell phones and color TV and nice cars and washing machines, that helped bring down the Soviet Union. Why? Because the people in the Soviet Union were looking at my talk show and programs like it and saying, hey, I want that. I want that. That brought down the rigid communist regime, and I think it had a lot to do. I take some credit, with men in lace panties and the women who loved them. I helped take down the Soviet Union.
That is a great story.
I think the North Koreans will face a similar threat from the pop culture emanating from South Korea, Japan, and the United States. Inundate them. This is what your life could be like. You could have 3 square meals a day. Your kids can get educated in a way that's not just rigid and totalitarian. You can play. You can have vacations. You can have a passport that allows you to go to other countries to enjoy freedom of travel and so forth. I think that's an excellent way to counteract North Korea, and I think that as long as they're looking inward, trying to keep their own people suppressed, they'll be less bellicose about that.
Geraldo, you mentioned Rosie O'Donnell, and no surprise here that she is responding the way she is. She has this video out. I don't know if you've seen it, but she's got these like cat ears or pig ears or something. Yeah, take a look at this.
Hi, Mr. Kim Jong-un. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. Anyway, sir, our President Donald is a moron. Don't listen to him. We don't.
I mean, I don't want to focus on her because no surprise, like I said, about her reaction. But, Geraldo, how does this country come together? How do we show more respect, not just for the president, but the threat that we face today? We're all in this together.
I have to just give 15 seconds on Rosie. I've known Rosie forever, almost as long as I've known President Trump. That there's real bad blood between those two going back to 2006 when she was on The View and she said that he had gone bankrupt and he attacked her in a way that I think was unprecedented, calling her a fat pig and a slob and all the rest of that. And she called him some names that are equally offensive. And the fact that he's president of the United States and she continues to insult his intelligence and his integrity, I think is tragic, and it's exactly the wrong thing. But she has the freedom to do it, and God bless her, let her go do it. But I want the United States, I want the people of the United States to watch what the president does. Not so much what he says, but watch what he does. So far, his actions in terms of foreign policy generally, and North Korea specifically, have been traditional, they've been sober, they've been rational, they've been measured. I think the president is on the right course. Let some of the other stuff, just fall by the wayside. Focus on what's really happening.
We've heard all morning from the governor of Guam as well. Geraldo Rivera, thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Good to see Geraldo.
All right, President Trump doubling down on his disappointment in Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. So is this what draining the swamp looks like? We're going to ask someone who worked for the president himself.
Should have had health care approved. He should have known that he had a couple of votes that turned on him, and that should have been very easy to handle. I was not impressed. Now, can he do good? I think so.
That is President Trump doubling down on his disappointment of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell over health care. So is going after establishment Republicans and moderates what draining the swamp looks like. Joining us now is former communications director for President Trump's campaign as well as transition team, Brian Lanza. Brian, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I want to put up a tweet the president put out as well. Thanks for being here. The president tweeted this as well. He said, Mitch, get back to work and put repeal and replace, tax cuts, and a great infrastructure bill on my desk for signing. You can do it. As someone who's worked very closely with the president, understands how and why he communicates, what is his approach here? Is this what draining the swamp looks like, taking on the establishment?
This is what leadership looks like. I mean, President Trump is saving the Republican Party from the Republican establishment. The impact that it would have for the Republican establishment not to pass, replace and repeal Obamacare would just suppress the enthusiasm among the Republican base, and they'd lose credibility. I mean, President Trump knows that, and that's why he's fighting so hard to push this initiative forward, and many others.
Brian, you were there when the drain the swamp phrase literally came to be. The president kind of stumbling upon it and realized he really had hit on something and fully embraced it. The original vision of that was that wasn't just Democrats. That was the establishment in Washington.
That was fixing D.C. I mean, the status quo here of just perpetual failure for years to come, where none of the issues are really addressed, where the minute it gets a little bit hard, people, scatter to their corners and just stop fighting. I mean, that's what draining the swamp means. I mean, the American people have an expectation of their elected officials and of their government to function properly, and it just hasn't happened for the better part of 25 years. And so when the president hit that chord, and he hit it just right, he touched into something that we all believe, that Washington is broken, and it's broken because of special interests.
Brian, you used the word fight, and President Trump has been described as a fighter. Yet you see someone like Orrin Hatch, who's been in the Senate, feels like forever, saying that Mitch McConnell is the best majority leader we've ever had, when we're sitting after an epic failure and an inability to repeal and replace Obamacare. Has the Republican Party, in many ways, or the establishment, lost its ability to fight, and President Trump is reminding them of that?
I would agree with that a lot. I mean, I think they had a tough time over the last 8 years, and now they've come to realize that they're in leadership. I mean, they have a responsibility. They have the ability to implement the policies that they've been championing for the last 8 years while they've been claiming to be shut out. And I think this is a huge opportunity for the Republican Party. It's a huge opportunity for the establishment, and it's a better opportunity for the American people who are looking for the change, who voted for a change in November, and who see President Trump as an instrument to that change and to change in Washington, D.C. Last
really quick question. Who are the grassroots going to blame on this? Is it going to be Mitch, if it doesn't get done, Mitch McConnell or the president?
Listen, they're going to blame the Republican Party. That's why you see the president fighting so hard to hold them accountable. Yeah. It's not just, it just doesn't stop with the Senate. It doesn't stop with the House. It hurts all Republicans, the fact that the leadership here in D.C. can't pass the promises that they made, and that's a problem for us. And that's why you're seeing President Trump so aggressive and pushing back against
Republicans
the status
succeed
quo.
If this president succeeds. That's definitely a fact. Brian Lanza, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
We're moving on with a Fox News alert. North Korea claims their army is on standby for an attack on the U.S. homeland. But former National Security Advisor Susan Rice says the rogue country's nukes are no big deal. General Jack Keane coming up on that.
Welcome back. We're back with a Fox News alert breaking moments ago. A North Korean state newspaper responding to President Trump's latest tough talk with this quote, saying the United States finds itself in an ever-worsening dilemma, being thrown into the grip of extreme security unrest by North Korea, whose powerful revolutionary army is capable of fighting any war the United States wants, is now on standby. Here's the real sentence. Is now on standby to fire into its U.S. mainland, waiting for an order of final attack. Now, this warning to the Trump administration: if they don't want the American empire to meet its tragic doom in its tenure, they better talk and act properly. So let's recap. Hit our mainland, and President Trump better talk and act properly. Here now, retired four-star general, former vice chief of staff of the U.S. Army, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and Fox News military analyst, General Jack Keane. General, good to see you this morning. Just to get your response to this latest breaking news out of North Korea.
Well, it's the same rhetoric we've been hearing for some time. Clearly, they've got an army that's always on standby. Look at the ball is certainly in their court, and it's also in China's court. I think the president is right on the mark here. We're pushing back on them, certainly. And the path through destabilizing this crisis is through China. The president knows that. I think that's why he was on the phone last night with the president of China. And he's going to continue to engage him until we get this crisis stood down. I believe eventually it will stand down.
Yeah, you mentioned the path through China. Were you heartened to hear their statement within the past 48 hours that if North Korea attacks the United States, they would stay out of it, we attack first, they would get into it. What do you make of that statement?
Well, first of all, it's highly unlikely that North Korea would attack the United States. After all, the reason why they want to have nuclear ICBMs and put the American people at risk is to guarantee the preservation of their regime. Why would they take military action which would guarantee the destruction of their regime? So I think that's highly unlikely. It's not that this isn't a dangerous situation with rhetoric that they're using clearly and the kind of people that are running that regime. This is a closed society, the most repressive society on the planet is what we're dealing with here. Absolute thugs and killers run this country, so we cannot take them lightly because of the kind of moral character that they have. But also we got to look at it sensibly.
It seems like, and I totally agree with you, the idea of them using nuclear weapons seems ridiculous, and maybe in the same way that Iran as well will be wiped off the map. And it's all a matter of showing strength as a hedge against the region and showing this strength. But at the end of the day, are we just going to allow them to have these weapons? Are we going to put something in place where we can get back in there diplomatically in some capacity to try to have these weapons removed? Is that even possible?
Well, the Kim dynasty made a strategic shift during the Obama administration, and I think it likely had to do with the Obama administration's general appeasement and accommodation of our adversaries. You point your finger at any part of the world, and they backed away from our adversaries throughout the entire globe. And I think what the Kim dynasty came to the conclusion is that, look at, we can have nuclear ICBMs pointed at the United States, hold the American people at risk, and the Obama administration will acquiesce to that. They will accept that. They will treat us like they treat the former Soviet Union and now Russia and China with ICBMs nuclearized. That was their calculation. And I think that was actually, Clayton, an accurate calculation. I believe completely that the Obama administration would have acquiesced. What they did not calculate when they made that strategic shift and began to accelerate this development of ICBMs as rapidly as they're doing is the election of Donald Trump. That was not in their calculation. And this president, rightfully so, is not going to accept a regime of thugs and killers, and as repressive as they are, and as closed society as they are, holding the American people at risk. He will not do that. And I think that is absolutely the right decision. And now it's pushing back on this strategic decision that they've made, and they're having difficulty with it. And I think China will help them finally get to the right place.
I want to get your take before we wrap this up, General, on Susan Rice's comments. You mentioned the Obama administration. She had written an opinion piece in the New York Times. I believe we have some of that we can put up here to show. And she basically, in her own words, says war is not necessary to achieve prevention. History shows that we can, if we must, tolerate nuclear weapons in North Korea. So tolerate weapons in North Korea.
Well, there it is, isn't it? This is exactly what I was saying. They would certainly do that. Listen, they have tolerated the revision of China's revision of the order in the Western Pacific. They tolerated Russia's annexation of Crimea, the fact that they intervened in Eastern Europe. They tolerated Russia's intervention in Syria. They tolerated the removal of Mubarak, and we got the Muslim Brotherhood. They pulled out of Iraq, and we got ISIS. I mean, I could go on and on and on in terms of their toleration. Their toleration has fundamentally made this world a more dangerous place. And finally, we have a leader who's returning America to the world stage and providing stability and security, reassuring our allies, and willing to no longer appease and accommodate our adversaries, but willing to confront them. This is a good thing, not just for the United States, but for global prosperity and global peace.
General Jack Keane, always great having you here on the show, and your expertise is unparalleled. Thanks, General.
Good talking to you, Clayton.
Up next on the show, a brand new threat from Al-Qaeda and where they plan to strike next when we come back.
That is your shot of the morning. It is National Bowling Day, so of course we have our own bowling alley right here on our plaza. Is that Clayton? Clayton and Pete. At it again. Who's better? We're going to see coming up on the show. All right, more though. I want to bring you some headlines that we are following this morning. Starting with the Fox News alert, and Al-Qaeda now has a target in America. subway trains. The latest issue of the terrorist group magazine Inspire is headlined "Trains Derail Operations." It describes ways to attack trains, describing derailments as simple to design with easily available materials and hard for authorities to detect. There are more than 10,000 miles of train rails here in the U.S. That is frightening stuff. And Christian Broadcasting Network founder Pat Robertson is in the hospital this morning. The 87-year-old was hurt after he fell while horseback riding. Robertson is a familiar face, of course, on the 700 Club and founded Regent University in Virginia. The network says that Robertson's injuries, they were minor, and doctors expect him to make a full recovery. And more evidence this morning that Obamacare is self-destructing. One of the largest nationwide insurers, Anthem, just announcing that it will leave the Obamacare exchange in the state of Virginia. With United Healthcare and Aetna already leaving Virginia, people will now have to find a new plan and likely a new doctor as well. This, of course, comes just days after Anthem announced that it was exiting Georgia and the state of Nevada. And terrifying video of several armed burglars chasing a 14-year-old boy who was home alone. Take a look at this. After the boy opens the front door, the men barge in, chase him into the kitchen before blindfolding him with his own shirt. They then ransack the Florida home, getting away with electronics. People are still searching for the men, but thankfully, that boy was not hurt. And those are just some of the headlines we're following this morning. Outside to Rick and Bass Pro Shops for the hunting season. Rick, what's going on?
Yes, it is. Our friends at Bass Pro Shops have been out here all morning long gearing up for their annual Fall Hunting Classic. It kicks off in stores nationwide this weekend.
Back with more deals is Bass Pro Shops Redhead Pro Hunting Team member Alan Treadwell, along with She Outdoor Pros Courtney Smith. Thank you both for being here this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Tell us about the Fall Hunting Classes. It's one of your big events every year.
Yes, and we are having a great time talking to folks about it. It is amazing, family friendly. You're going to have huge savings, huge deals, and then free activities for kids, crafts, ranges, BBs, and archery, and then free hunting seminars for adults, and then women's specific courses as well.
It started yesterday. How long does it go?
Till the 27th.
To the 27th.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, a lot of times people don't, they might want to do something, but they don't know how to do it. You can go to Bass Pro Shops always and learn how to do it, not have to be intimidated
Exactly.
by it either. All right, you guys always have amazing deals on these products. Tell us about this.
So this is so cool. I mean, it's amazing where technology has come. This is the Leupold Tracker, and it's actually a thermal imager. So what you can do, it's a great go for big game hunting because you can walk to your stand at night without using a light. You're not spooking game. And then if you have downed animals, you can see the heat signature of their trail and be able to get up to them. So it's a great tool for big game hunting.
Here's another version of this, right?
So this is a little bit different. This is the LTO Quest, and this is similar. It has the same thermal feature, but it's a 3-in-1. So it's a flashlight as well and a camera. It's a 300 lumen flashlight, and the camera, it comes with the SD card. We actually took an image earlier on. See that?
Yeah.
And that shows the heat itself coming off of somebody that was here on set just dancing, having fun. And the SD card will hold up to 2,000 images.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
All right, so now you have these sleigh shot shells.
Yeah, these are the Winchester, Dove, and Clay loads, and obviously I've shot quite a few shotgun shells over the years. This is the lowest price I've seen in a long time, and from August 24th to the 27th, they're going to be $5 a box.
Rick, there's none in here because the Second Amendment doesn't exist on the island of Manhattan. But in the rest of America, it does, and you can pick them up.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that's what I think that is. All right, you guys sell everything. You sell boats, you sell ATVs.
Yeah, so this is something we're real proud of, the Arctic Cat VLX 700. And this is such a great buy. Let's go check it out.
Yeah.
So it comes up here. We got it up here in the True Timber Canati pattern. You can only get that at Bass Pro Shops. Please jump on, help yourself. But the prices now on these four-wheelers are so low. This is the lowest price we've had on a four-wheeler ATV.